Hi everyone, Crista Cowan here with another episode of The Barefoot Genealogist. Today we are talking about FindAGrave once again. If you joined us on Tuesday, we gave a basic overview of the findagrave.com website. Today we're going to talk specifically about the FindAGrave mobile app. A lot of you are going to be out on the road this summer, traveling, visiting family, on vacations, and one of the best things that you can do to be involved in FindAGrave and to fulfill your need for cemeteries is to get a copy of this app on your mobile device and use it wherever you go. Now, currently, just to put this out there up front, the FindAGrave mobile app is only available in iOS, which means it's only available for iPhone or iPad. We are working on an Android app and hope to have that available very soon. So currently only available in iOS, but lots of really cool features that you might want to stick around and take a peek at so that you can see, if you have an Android device, what is coming for you as well. Let's go ahead and dive in, and mostly I just have some screenshots for you. It was easier to do that than to try to hold up my cell phone and show you what's going on, and so I want to explain to you some of the capabilities of the app and hopefully get you excited about some of the opportunities available for using this app on the go. So the first thing is when you download this app, and it is free. FindAGrave.com is free. The app is free. Searching it is free. You do probably want to have a login and password, which you can register with the website if you want to contribute. But again, that is free. So here's going to be your home screen, and then you're going to have this opportunity to actually search FindAGrave just like you do on the online website. It just looks a little different. You can search for a specific memorial for a person, or you can search by cemetery. And when you click on that, it's going to just take you to a very simple search box that you can just tap and fill in the information, again, much like you would on the website, where you can fill in the information about the person that you're looking for, where you think they might be buried. Now you need to remember that the search on FindAGrave, both the website and the app, is very simple, which means there's not a lot of room for, there's no wild card searches or sounds like or any of that. You need to just make sure that you take into account all the different possible variant spellings that you might find. Don't put in too much information. If you try to fill in every single field, very often you're going to limit your search results, especially if you're not certain of a birth or death date or a burial location, or if you have inaccurate information, what you're looking for might not come up. One of the things you can also do, again, much like the website, is when you find a memorial, or if you want to search specifically for a cemetery, you can get information about that particular cemetery. There's often going to be a photograph, a listing of how many memorials there are, and you can tap through to that to actually see the listings, the memorials on the page. There's going to be some open photo requests, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute. An option to add a new memorial to that cemetery, and then cemetery information, very often including GPS coordinates. Some large cemeteries, of course, are going to be easy to find, but very often our ancestors are buried in very small, obscure plots of land that are not even active cemeteries anymore, and so GPS coordinates become really crucial. Sometimes there will also be contact information about the cemetery. And let me just talk briefly about that, just in relationship to genealogical research in general. Whenever you're doing genealogical research and you find a tombstone memorial for a particular ancestor in a particular cemetery, it never hurts to contact that cemetery to see what additional information they might have. Very often, if it's an active cemetery, if it's a larger cemetery in particular, they're going to have files, usually burial cards, for the people who are buried in their cemetery. That will often list things like who purchased the plot, which is important information. It could include a copy of a death certificate or an obituary. Sometimes some cemeteries collect information about the people who are buried there. And so you never know what additional information the cemetery might hold. The other thing that is really useful that you can get from cemeteries and contacting them directly is proximity. So if the cemetery that you're interested in is across the country and you likely won't have a chance to visit it in a long time, who's buried near whom is an important part of reconstructing families, which is what we're about when we're doing family history and genealogy research. We're reconstructing families. We're making sure that we know that these people are the siblings and these people are the parents and these are the children and the grandchildren. And those relationships are crucial to get accurate. Otherwise, you end up climbing someone else's family tree. And so burial proximity is often good information. And very often cemeteries are willing to either send you a map or let you know who's buried in the same plot or in the, who's buried next to whom. And again, that becomes really important information if you can map that out. So contacting cemeteries when you're doing genealogical research, just as a little side note here to our presentation today, can yield you some really, really useful information. Now, one of the cool features about the app that I have just fallen in love with, and this is I use this kind of a feature when I do all sorts of things on my mobile phone, which is the use my current location feature on my cell phone. And so, whether I'm looking for a restaurant or whether I'm looking for, a pedicurist or whether I'm looking for a cemetery, that capability is built in because of the GPS on smartphones. And so one of the things you can do with the FindAGrave app is you can search for cemeteries near you. And this is good if you want to contribute to FindAGrave. If you live in an area, you can wherever you live, you can say find cemeteries near me, and you can see here on the map it will show you the cemeteries near you. And if you click on one, it'll show you how many memorials have been recorded in that cemetery, and then it'll show you how many open photo requests there are. So one of the ways that FindAGrave works is people look for the person that they look for an ancestor or a relative buried in a specific location. If they know the person is buried in that location, but there is no memorial or tombstone photo, they can submit a request for someone to take that photo. And then volunteers all over the world who live near these cemeteries go out and fulfill those requests. And so if you want to contribute to FindAGrave, 116 million memorials so far, you've probably taken advantage of it. Here's an opportunity for you to give back to that community. See what cemeteries are near you, and if any of those cemeteries have an open photo request or a set of open photo requests, you can then go fulfill those. So that's really great to use where you live. I also find that it's super handy when I'm on the road. I travel quite a bit for business. As I mentioned earlier, some of you may be traveling this summer to visit family or on vacations. Use this as an opportunity to visit some of those places where your ancestors lived. And if you happen to be in a cemetery paying your respects to an ancestor or deceased relative, see if there are others buried there that you can likewise honor, whether they're related to you or not. So search for cemeteries near you, look for those open photo requests. I mentioned earlier you can also see those on the cemetery page. So here you can see there's the same 11 open photo requests. I can click through to that to see what I can fulfill. One of the cool things about the app is that it allows you to be standing at the tombstone with your iPhone or your iPad. You can take a photo and then you can upload it instantly. And I love that feature that it allows you to just in that moment, right there, take the photo, upload the photo, automatically create that memorial. It also will GPS tag or geotag that specific location that you were standing in when you took that photograph. So I don't know how many of you have been to large cemeteries. We have a large cemetery about an hour north of me in Salt Lake City. I've been to the cemetery in Ashland, Ohio, a couple of other just really large cemeteries where you think, oh, great, I know my family's buried here, but how am I ever going to find them when you're looking at cemeteries that cover, acres and acres and acres of land? And so being able to have a geotag on a photograph that was taken in that moment with your mobile device and uploaded immediately, I think that that's genius, because then anybody else who comes looking for that tombstone now has a specific geolocation that should get them within just a few feet of that particular tombstone should they come looking for it. Really, really handy. One of the other features that's now available through the app is you can also geotag existing memorials. So you're standing in front of a tombstone, somebody else, you look it up, somebody else has already taken a photo of that tombstone. You don't want to create a new memorial ever. You don't even need to really upload a new photograph because a photograph already exists for that tombstone. But you can then geotag that tombstone so that the system knows exactly where that listing is. A couple of other things that you can do directly through the app now, and just we're on our third release of this, and so there's some cool things I think that have been developed and that have changed over time. So if you're still on version 1 or 2, make sure you get the most recent release of the app. You can request photos, so you can actually submit photo requests directly through the app. This is kind of a fun feature. You can create a virtual cemetery. And you can do this on the web, but I see that it's a little bit easier to do through the app. So for example, if I wanted to create a listing of all of the places where my Cowan ancestors and relatives are buried, I could create a virtual Cowan cemetery, and every time I come across one of the memorial pages for one of those relatives, I could tag it into this virtual cemetery of mine. You could do that, also if you're, finding the cemeteries of deceased rock stars, or it doesn't have to just be family members. You can create multiple virtual cemeteries based on specific categories, and I think that that's really, really a great way to kind of categorize or tag these things so that they're all available in one location for you. And it gives kind of almost an interesting pattern. You can start to see different patterns. One of the things in genealogy that I'm a big fan of is looking at your data in different ways, doing your searches in different ways, looking at the records in multiple ways, because very often when we get in ruts, we stop seeing things that we should be noticing. And so when we try to look at things a different way, sometimes we see patterns that we hadn't noticed before. And so, it's great that you're uploading things to your tree, or that you're, putting your notes into Family Tree Maker. But every once in a while, maybe download your relatives into a spreadsheet, or put them into a timeline, or stick them on a map. Again, looking at things in a different way can help you see things you might not have seen before, and very often has helped me break through some of those brick walls. And so a virtual cemetery kind of functions in a similar way for genealogists, where it's just another way to look at the data. So if I've created this virtual cemetery for all of my Cowan relatives, what I start to see very often is going to be migration patterns as I see the time periods change and the burial locations change. So just a cool new way to look at your data is how I view that virtual cemetery for genealogists specifically. You can also become the manager of your personal profile through the app. So you have a personal profile on FindAGrave if you are a contributor. And as I mentioned, I hope that you have a desire to become a contributor if you've partaken of this free service at all. It is a community generated content. And so I'm always anxious to give back to the community that gives so freely to me. And so you have this personal profile, and your personal profile, it includes information about you and about how many memorials you manage, and you can add contact information. You can take a selfie. I can't believe I just used the word selfie. You can take a selfie and upload that so that people can see your face. People connect better when they have a photograph to connect with. And as part of that personal profile, you can also have a little bit of a message there for other users. And if you are a contributor who does not mind having others use your photographs in their own personal family history, make sure that you leave a note about that. As the photographer, when you take that photo, you automatically own the copyright to that photograph, which means nobody else can use it without your permission. And so if you want to just give a blanket release for others to use that photograph, then please include that in your personal profile so that others, otherwise you're going to probably be responding to hundreds of emails when people start finding the photographs that you've taken. So, and then the last thing that I just want to mention briefly is this new ability with version 3 of our FindAGrave app, which is to queue photos up for later upload. So you can be in a cemetery, and what happens is that you take the photo and it uploads it But if you don't want to use your data, I know a lot of you have limited data plans, and when you're in the middle of a cemetery, you're most likely not on Wi-Fi, you're on whatever your cellular network is. If you want to queue those photographs, so you just take photos and store them in the app, then when you get home or when you get back to a place where you have access to Wi-Fi, you can then upload those photos later without having to use your data minutes or your data plan. So that is a new ability in version 3 of the app. So like I said, if you haven't downloaded the latest version, make sure you do, because that is now an option for those of you who would like to use that. So lots of really cool things. Let me just show you where you can go. If you go to findagrave.com, there is a link there that will take you to a page that has information about the app. You can download it directly at the Apple Store, the App Store. Again, just a reminder, this is currently only for iOS, iPad, iPhone, but we are working on an Android app and it is coming soon. So keep your eyes out here on the FindAGrave page. We will for sure announce that here on the Ancestry.com Facebook page and probably in the Ancestry.com blog as well as soon as that is available. That is all I have prepared for you today. It was a brief presentation, but I just wanted to highlight this terrific app. I know so many of you, like I said, are going out on the road in the summer, and people start to be a little bit more mobile now that the weather has cleared up and we have the opportunity to get out there and get into some of these cemeteries and explore the history of the places that we're visiting and hopefully contribute to the community, the FindAGrave community, and take some of those tombstone photos for one another in the process. Until next time, this is Crista Cowan. Have fun climbing your family tree.